Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth Podcast. I'm Anish Gupta.
I'm Srikar and Anish.
So, unfortunately, Jack cannot be here with us today. I think he's still crying about the fact that Jamal Adams is gone and now C.J. Mosley opted out. So, you know what? We feel for him, but time must go on. So, we're here to record an episode today. And today we're going to be talking about the Rams. And, Srikar, you want to kind of get into what we're going to talk about?
Oh, yeah. And before we dive into anything Rams related, I kind of want to talk about Sean McVay, just him as a person. So I definitely think people, dare I say, sleeping on Sean McVay. You remember just 2 years ago, we were all calling him a creative genius. He's an innovator. He's the next big thing. And now I think the league has had a few looks at him, and he's become a little bit easier to read. And now the Rams are kind of just hoping that he's as smart as everybody thinks he is, which I still think he's a top 10 coach. I think that's just undisputed in my mind. Because here's the thing. The Rams were 9-7 last year in the NFC West, one of the best divisions in football. And McVay's won 33 games during his first 3 years, and he's never had a losing season. So I'm not going to sit here and act like 2019 was a disaster, because that's just blowing it out of proportions. So the Rams rank 7th in total offense, 8th in big plays. You finish in the top 5 in red zone touchdown percentage. And it's just the final results just weren't what was expected. You still did pretty good. You're just in a very tough division. And that's going to be the scenario this year again. You're in the toughest division in football. Every team in this division is going to be competitive. So it's like, I'm not going to put that on Sean McVay, because he is a consistent coach. And I've never seen him have a quote unquote bad season. It's just
with Sean McVay, I think it's so obviously I think the whole episode is going to be based around, can Sean McVay basically salvage this Rams offense? And I mean, basically we go back literally a year ago, 2019. Yes, it was probably the most boring Super Bowl I've ever watched, but the Rams were in it. Like, they were literally just in it. And we've gotten 2 NFC West teams back to back. We've gotten 3 NFC West teams in the last, I think we've gotten 4 appearances from an NFC West team in the last 5 or 6 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, 5 appearances in the last 7 if you include the Niners in Super Bowl 47.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a lot, man. Like, I mean, the NFC West has ruled the NFC in the last decade. I think it's safe to say countless times we've seen the Niners, Seahawks, Rams, and even the Cardinals make it. But, with this Rams team, they have so many talented players. At least back in 2018 they did, right? The list goes on. Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Higbee, Andrew Whitworth. I mean, list goes on. Then on the defense, obviously we got Aaron Donald, Corey Littleton. Now they have Jalen Ramsey. They had Marcus Peters before, John Johnson. Now they have Taylor Rapp, who I think is pretty good. Just so many playmakers that they had. Dante Fowler was there last year. But, I mean, if you're Jared Goff, right, and I hope Jack is watching this because he is better than Sam Darnold. I never want to hear that discussion. I can't believe
Jets fans, if you're in the comments, please don't attack us. Yeah, this is just our opinion.
Like, please, no, but it's like, this shouldn't even be debate. Like, I can't believe I actually have to spend time debating this. I mean, it's not remotely close. Jared Goff has had 2 top 10 seasons in my opinion, but last year was certainly not one of them. Yes, he threw for 4,600, but he also led the league in passing attempts and really didn't get much out of him. I mean, he threw for 22 touchdowns, but also 16 picks, and they went 9-7. I think it was an overrated 9-7 in my opinion, because they started to spiral a little bit in the middle of the season. They started to panic, and that's when they made that splash for Jalen Ramsey, giving up 2 first-round picks and virtually their entire future. But that's what I'm saying. That's not the way to go. In the NFL and in most sports, usually in trades, the team that gets the best player wins it. This is, I think, one of the first trades I've ever seen where you get the best player and really didn't come out on top, because I think the Jags got a great player in Chase on out of their pick that they got for Ramsey. And Ramsey didn't play all that great. I mean, he only had 5 passes defended. I mean, like 4 with the Rams, but just wasn't. I know he was playing on an island. He had a good game against Julio Jones, but I just didn't get that guy from that I expected from the trade that I was seeing. And those 2 losses, week 15 and 16, one to the Cowboys, the 21-44 loss, And the one against the Niners, obviously, we know what happened. I think that was the game where Jimmy converted 2 3rd and 16s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Was it week 16?
Yep, week 16.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can't blow that game. That's just a mistake on defense. And you know what? That brings me to my next point. Listen, I have started this. I think people need to pay more attention to this. One guy who actually has started is Skip Bayless, and he's a guy that I rarely agree with. I don't think I agree with him on anything. I mean, he likes LeBron. He hates LeBron. I like LeBron. I mean, he likes Brett Favre. I'm not the biggest Brett Favre fan. I mean, there's just so many things I go back and forth on him with this guy. But one thing I do agree with him on this is I think Aaron Donald is a bit overrated. And you know what? I mean, Srikar, I know you're kind of rolling your – like people roll their eyes when I say that. Listen, he is the best defensive player in the NFL. Okay, no question. I will give you that. But to put him, when I see top 100 lists, putting him at number 2, putting him above Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, no, I can't do that. No, he's a defensive tackle. It's like, I mean, I get it. He is a good defensive player. It's just position, value by position. He just can't do as much for his team as a quarterback can. And also, his playoff stats are atrocious. I mean, it's terrible. 0.5 sacks in 4 playoff games? Really? Really? Nine tackles in 4 playoff games from Aaron Donald? Really? If I told you that, really, you're gonna look at me as I'm crazy dude. Like, that's terrible. That is bad. He needs to step up when it matters. Again, the 2 3rd and 16s. Where did I see him? In the Super Bowl, the final drive where Brady marched down the field and then they kicked it in with Michelle. Where was Aaron Donald that drive? I mean, yeah, the offense wasn't doing anything, but the defense has to step up when it matters. And I'm counting on Aaron Donald to do that. That's why he's voted Defensive Player of the Year twice. But I didn't see him. I mean, like, you've got to hold him accountable for that. So yes, he is the best defensive player. Yes, he is top 5. He should be top 5 on the top 100. He should be top 5 in everyone's list. But again, I'm not putting him over.
You don't think he's 2?
Exactly. I just don't. I don't.
And you could go check out our top 100 video to see where he put him. I think he put him at 4.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Jack had.
So I think his personal sack total dropped from, was it 20 and a half to
12 and a half.
12 and a half this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen,
I mean,
no.
I still think he's as dominant as ever for the Rams, though.
Look, I get it. But
listen, I get he doesn't show up in big games, but
that's a big knock. And not only that. If I look at this past decade, I'm taking prime Von Miller and prime J.J. Watt over him any day of the week. Prime Von Miller.
That's actually an interesting discussion to have.
Oh, my God. He literally jumped out of my screen. I haven't seen Aaron Donald do that. Like, I just haven't. Against Brady in the AFC Championship, Von Miller took over that game and caused Brady to literally get disrupted. Same thing in the Super Bowl against Cam Newton. He literally took over that game. That is one of the best defensive playoff runs I've ever seen. And then J.J. Watt, he's done this tremendously, like against the Bengals in the playoffs. Even against the Bills just recently, despite being banged up, he literally tortured Josh Allen towards that end of the game. And Quentin Spain, I think they put on him, could not cover him to save his life. I mean, that was just one of the worst offensive line performances I've ever seen, in large part to J.J. Watt. So, but let's get back to the Rams. I think, you still have good players. I mean, you lose Littleton. I think that's a big loss, right?
Oh, yeah.
You agree with me on that. Obviously,
one of the best off-ball linebackers. Mm-hmm. One of the more underrated off-ball linebackers, I should say.
Facts, yep. And then, obviously, Marcus Peters leaves the team and somehow becomes borderline top 8 cornerback in the league again. So That's a little bit weird. That's one loss, again, that we got to account for. Dante Fowler, another one that I believe he's on the Falcons now. That's 11 sacks gone. And I think, they still have their stars, though. They still have Todd Gurley. How could we forget?
Gurley's gone. Clay Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Weddle retired.
Yep.
Brandon Cooks is gone.
Yep. Keep going. I mean, Todd Gurley, I know you were mad about him making the list. I still think he's in it. I just don't think 51.
I don't think he's 51. No chance I put him at 51.
But again, he's still at 1,000 total scrimmage yards and 14 touchdowns on literally one leg. So I think he's going to bounce back with the Falcons. But again, what's the Rams running back situation? Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, I think. There's another guy. I think his last name is Love. I can't. I don't think it's Bryce Love.
That's the key question. Like, who's going to carry the ball? The Rams spent a 3rd rounder on Darrell Henderson last year.
Yeah.
I think it was an interesting move because, that was when the Rams were saying, like, oh, we're fine with Gurley. Gurley's our guy.
Yeah.
And then when Gurley was released, you figured Henderson would be the guy, but then the Rams go out and draft Cam Akers. And
True.
I'm
Cam
high
Akers,
on Cam
yeah.
Akers. I mean, I've seen this guy's film, and he looks like a star. I think he's a great replacement for Gurley.
It's so hard, though. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
Todd Gurley was unquestionably the best back from 2017 to 2019.
I just think he's a perfect fit for their scheme, the zone blocking scheme. I think he works perfectly for that. But I mean, my question is, why did the Rams use a third rounder on Henderson? Like, are they giving up on him like too early?
I think they're trying to establish a running back by committee. I think that's what's been successful. I mean, look at their NFC West counterpart. Look at the Niners, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and sorry, excuse me, on the Love part. Sorry, that's Josh Love, a quarterback on the depth chart. I got confused there. John Kelly is the fourth guy on their depth chart. But I think with the Rams, it's just I haven't seen McVay succeed without Gurley. It just in any game. I mean, the one game I will give him, well, I mean, he had C.J. Anderson too, but I mean, they both did well, really. Like, think about it. When Todd Gurley didn't do well in the Super Bowl, he really didn't have an answer. I mean, he couldn't get Jared Goff involved. I think his scheme literally.
We were all questioning why he didn't give the ball to Gurley more. It's like
that's true, but also I think that was when Gurley's arthritis started to hit. And then it started spiraling downward last year. I think it's this. Do you think McVay's still a top 10 head coach?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'd say.
I think he is. But I'm not putting him over the coaches that have won a Super Bowl, and I think Kyle Shanahan is above him as well. So I think obviously you got Belichick, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, John Harbaugh, Doug Peterson, Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan again. I put over him.
He's at Sean McVay's at 8 or 9.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's shown enough. Like, he is taking this team to heights that I never would have expected with Jeff Fisher. So obviously he's a step up. But it's just, can the Rams overcome what they've lost this year? Obviously they got Leonard Floyd. I think he's a guy to watch out for, though. I think he could probably get 9+ sacks. I think that's a guy.
I don't think the Bears utilized him the right way. I just don't think he panned out for them. And back to the running back point, I mean, I'm going back in time here, but when they were the St. Louis Rams, when Gurley was drafted, you may have to fact check on me on this one. They had Zach Stacy.
Was it Ridley?
Benny Cunningham, Trey Mason. Okay, I think those are the three backs when Gurley was drafted. And that season, Gurley carried the rock 229 times. And that's different coaching staff. So I don't know if it's extremely relevant. But anyways, I expect Akers to be the guy for the Rams because I really think this guy will thrive in their system. And actually, I also wanted to harp on Jared Goff a little bit because there are times when Goff looks like an amazing quarterback and he looks like he's worth that money. Like, he throws for 4,500 plus yards in a season. And then there's times when he looks like, dare I say, Mitch Trubisky bad. Like, when he barely produces more touchdowns than turnovers in a season. Pretty sure the ratio was 22 to 16.
Yep, 22 to 16.
I checked it a little bit earlier.
Past year.
But I'd say Goff has a lot to prove this year. I'd say even more than McVay. And I think when I was going into this offseason with the Rams, I thought they'd go the Titans route and maybe bring in a guy like Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton, someone to push Jared Goff.
Okay.
But I think the Rams are content with Goff. So just looking back at that now, that's just another one of my historically horrible takes. But I'm just wondering if the team, if the Rams if they're regretting it at all and how much money they gave him.
That's true. The contract. I was just about to bring that up. I think with Jared Goff, it's this. I mean, I have a friend who's a huge – we're talking bigger Goff fan than, Jack O'Darnold fan. Huge Goff fan. So I know he's watching this.
I'd love to see them in an argument.
No, I've argued Jared Goff so many times with him. Look, I'm going to tell it right now. Jared Goff right now is not in my top 15. I think he was definitely borderline top 10 the year he made the Super Bowl. But last year, I mean, I expected – you have all these players. How do you not make the playoffs? I mean, they were racing with the Vikings and then they lost it week 15. I think that was the game.
But keep in mind, with this expanded format, they would have made it. But I mean, even still, it's
But now coming into this year, I mean, your NFC West counterparts have only gotten better. All three of them, like Seattle with Jamal Adams, the Niners. The Niners, obviously, I think they got a bit younger and they're more experienced now. So I still think they're a better. It's tough, but I still think they were better, and obviously they're better than the Rams right now. We got to give them that. And the Cardinals took some big strides as well, right? And it's just they're in a loaded NFC. And, players are starting to age. Whitworth obviously is – I know he only allowed 1 sack last year, but he's starting to age. I don't like Corbett. That is why we traded him, the Browns meaning. The Browns, he wasn't good for us, and he hasn't been that good for them as well. And I think they're switching him from right guard to left guard. I don't like it. Havenstein allowed 5 sacks last year. That's not a good sign. I think, he's 28, but I think he's starting to decline. I like their center, Austin Blythe, I think, or however you say his name. He's good. I think he's a good pass protector, but they need to – I think with Goff, it's this. I think he needs to get the ball out quicker now because I think Todd Gurley was a really underrated blocker. I don't know what I'm getting from this running back by committee system that they're trying to do. But 2 guys I do want people to watch out for. And if you guys are fantasy football players listening on this, Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. I'm telling you, Tyler Higbee, you can steal him. He will be your go-to guy. I'm telling you right now. If you can steal him in like the 9th round, and he will be a god for you. But just listen to me last year. 500 yards in 5 games to finish it out. That is wide receiver 1 numbers. That is like top 3 receiver numbers. And he got fed the ball a lot. And I'm talking, yes, it was 100 yards, and it was over 7 receptions each time. So this dude is getting fed the rock. And I think, now with Brandon Cooks gone, right? And, I had a friend who said Brandon Cooks was going to go for 1,500 last year.
Oh, my goodness. That's something I would say.
That was so great. He could not have been more wrong. Concussions kind of derailed him, but he had 500 yards last year, kind of a Juju Smith-Schuster type of year. I think he'll bounce back with the Texans, but now he's gone. I think Cooper Kupp is going to do a bit better. I think it was just what was concerning for me. Srikar was just talking about it with me before the episode started. Ever since the Bengals game, or I think it was the Steelers game for me, because he had 220 yards the Bengals game, and then against the Steelers, no catches, and 4 targets, I believe. That was terrible. And the Rams only lost by 5, so imagine if he got the ball. But he couldn't get open against guys like Minka, Joe Hayden. I think that concerns me. I need you to step up a bit more if you're going to be my number 1 receiver. And I think he can. That's why I believe in Cooper Kupp. I really like his game. Obviously, 10 touchdowns last year. He was one of my candidates for leading the league in receiving touchdowns as well. So I think watch out for Cooper Kupp and Higbee. Aaron Donald. I need you to play better in big games, man. I don't know what to say. He's the best defensive player. It's just people are acting like he's one of the best talents ever. Yes, I think so, but not over prime Vaughn, not over prime JJ, and he just doesn't jump out the screen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're a Niner fan. You've seen them play the Rams. I haven't seen Aaron Donald take over. I haven't. If you can show me game tape, and as a passer, I've said this: run defending, second to none.
Yeah.
But pass rushing wise, he's Chris Jones is pretty comparable.
It's dropped off
a bit, but I think he's still number 1. So I think going
into your point.
Yeah, keep going.
To your point about, I'm going to cover some things, but to your point about the O-line. So I looked at PFF; they were ranked 31st, and that seems terrible, but you got to also think about that the Rams gave up the fewest sacks last season in the league. And I went to Next Gen Stats before the episode started, and Goff was 17th in terms of time to throw for quarterbacks with at least 150 pass attempts. So he had more time than QBs like Drew Brees, Tom Brady. So, the fact is Goff needs to make better decisions with the football. That's just where – because I mentioned the ratio earlier. That is a bad ratio. So, I think his decision making's got to improve.
Loki sounded like a sheep there.
Oh boy! And then with the receiving core, Anish touched on this. He never topped more than 100 yards in any game after he went off on the Bengals in Week 8.
20 and then 0.
And then instead, Higbee became that go-to guy for Jared Goff. He gets over 100 receiving yards in 4 consecutive games. And then week 17, he quote unquote had a down game with 84 yards and a touchdown. So, Higbee finished the season with 734 receiving yards, and that's the most by a tight end in franchise history. So I think we might look back at this season as the breakout season for Tyler Higbee. And I know McVay has big plans for him this year. So I think he's really going to shine in this offense. And you said it, Brandon Cooks is gone. So I think this is only going to be better for him. But I mean, if I was to kind of wrap this up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Rams just need to get their credibility back. And you do that by making it to the playoffs. And remember, they were 9-7 last year. You missed the playoffs by a game, by one game. And if that expanded postseason was happening now, they would have made it. And I know it was disappointing as a Rams fan to see it, but because they had reached a point at 8-5, where you control your own fate when it comes to the playoffs. So if the Rams don't want to look like a one-hit wonder, you need to keep winning. And I think overall, it's just a huge year for the Rams. This is the biggest year for McVay. And just what makes it so difficult is that you're in the toughest division in football.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be competitive. You can have one of the best offenses again, and you could still not make the playoffs.
So what would
and it's
you
not
say,
because
if you were to bet your money on it, would you have them going in the playoffs?
No.
Me neither.
I wouldn't say so.
It's
just looking at the strength of the NFC.
It's just too loaded of an NFC. And look, I've said this 100 times on the show. If you look, talent is one thing. Players, a good roster is one thing. It's how you execute. And look, McVay is a very good offensive coach. It's just I don't trust their defense in certain situations, in key situations, actually. I think Taylor Rapp could break out as a really good safety, though. I think watch out for him. Same thing with John Johnson. I think if he plays fully healthy, he had 119 tackles the last full year he played. So I think watch out for him. But defense has got guys. It's just they need to finish. And I don't like their linebacking core now without Littleton. So they're a bit iffy there.
It's definitely suspect. I think this whole team is a little bit suspect. I mean,
honestly,
you got the talent, of course, but with all that outgoing talent, it's just we don't know. And that's why
also Jared Goff, right? Like, I think this is a big year for him regarding his contract, because they give you a 4-year extension of the year after you make the Super Bowl, right? And I hear Colin Cowherd say this: if you make a Super Bowl, you're a really good quarterback. Yeah, to some extent, I think. But we've seen now a year after Jared Goff made the Super Bowl, and it's just I didn't like what I saw from him. I mean, he was getting outplayed by guys like Jameis Winston on his own field. Really? You're gonna let Jameis Winston outscore you and drop 55 as a Rams defense? Really?
Yeah.
55? I mean, like, there's just some of those games where it's like you've got to win them. I mean, you let Dallas drop 44 on you when you're 8-5. Really? Like, it's just key situations where I don't see the Rams stepping up. And if I were to bet on it, I did a playoff predictor simulation for the NFL season. I have them going 7-9. I think they'll win a couple games against the division. I just don't see them overcoming those key situations that I thought they could do, especially prior to 2019 season. Obviously, they stepped up when it mattered. I know the pass interference, people bring it up, but as a huge Drew Brees fan, it's I do have to give him some blame for the interception he threw. Like, I mean, they did get the ball first. And I know the pass
interference. He had an opportunity to win.
They did.
People overlook that.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously
that wasn't the end-all be-all for the Saints. I mean, it's a putrid call,
but I think I mean, if you were to give like a quick reg, I mean, I think 7-9 is probably where I'd have them.
I'd estimate around there, maybe 8-8. I don't think it's enough. It's obviously.
I think they might finish 4th in the division. I really do. I think the Cardinals go above them 8-8, and I think the Rams kind of finish 7-9. I just don't like where they're headed. They didn't invest in their future. I don't think Jalen Ramsey can overcome 2 first-round picks. I just don't think that. And again, I need to see Aaron Donald step up in those key situations when it matters most. Same thing with Jared Goff, and just too many questions. I think McVay will get them to some wins where they'll just go erupt for like 40 points. But there'll be some games where it's just like, how do you let this team score 40 on you?
So, I think it's going to be between the Cardinals and the Rams for last.
Yeah,
and even like last isn't bad because just how good the
NFC West. I think, and that's what's great about this season. I think to kind of finish it off, it's just there's so many teams. I mean, I've talked about it with a friend. There are, I'd say, aside from 4 teams, really, I think that the rest of the 28. You can literally give me like 5 points on each team why they can make the playoffs and why they can go like 3-13. It's crazy to me. And we need the season. Obviously, the NFL is doing everything they can. But Srikar, if you want to kind of wrap this episode up.
And I just really hope there's a season. This is gonna be one of the most interesting football seasons in just such a long time, and I just can't
Every
wait for it to
division
get.
too, especially. I mean, we've been talking about
Hmm.
the NFC West, especially kind of these California teams. Hopefully, the Rams can do something. Hopefully, Jared Goff can prove me wrong and prove my friend right, and have a top 10 season. My friend actually said Goff would be better than Wentz. You know how I reacted to that. I was pretty
Mm,
mad.
mm.
You
He's
know.
a Carson Wentz stan.
Yeah, I really am. But I think that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please check out our links down below in the description. We're obviously on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Please check out our website or Instagram. And hopefully the Rams can do it. But as for us, we'll see you next time.